1971 was a dirty year in the borderlands. A year when the dust carried the smell of blood and regret. And mercy was something only spoken about by men already buried. And on a forgotten stretch of highway outside a dying desert town called San Isidro, a woman lay motionless beneath a burning sun, her blood soaking into the cracked earth as vultures circled above, waiting because the Desperados were sure she was finished, sure that no one could survive what they had done. And that certainty was their first mistake. Her name was Elena Reyes, and an hour earlier she had been dragged from her pickup truck by 5 men who laughed like hyenas and smelled of whiskey and gun oil. Men who had already burned farms, robbed families, and buried witnesses across 3 states. Men who called themselves kings because no one had lived long enough to challenge them. And Elena had seen their faces clearly when they killed her brother, Mateo, right in front of her, for refusing to give up his land. She had screamed, she had fought. She had bitten one of them so hard, he still carried the scar. And for that, they beat her until her ribs cracked like dry twigs, put a bullet through her shoulder, and tossed her into the ditch as casually as throwing away an empty bottle, telling each other she'd be food for coyotes by nightfall. But Elena didn't die. She drifted in and out of darkness, clinging to pain like a rope, thinking of her mother's voice, of Mateo's last breath, of the promise she made as a child that she would never let fear decide her fate. And when night fell and the cold crept in, she crawled, inch by inch, leaving a trail of blood and resolve, until an old prospector named Jonah Pike found her near his shack, a man who'd buried 2 sons to Outlaw, bullets, and still slept with a rifle across his chest. And when Elena whispered the names of the men who did this, Jonah didn't ask questions, he simply nodded, because some evils didn't need explaining. And for weeks she healed in silence, learning to breathe through pain, learning to aim with her uninjured arm, learning how to disappear into shadows, because Jonah taught her something the world had forgotten, that survival isn't about strength, it's about patience and memory. And Elena remembered everything, every voice, every laugh, every threat, and when she was ready, she cut her hair, wrapped her wounds, and rode back toward San Isidro not as a victim, but as a reckoning. And the town didn't recognize her when she walked into the bar where the Desperados were celebrating another job, drunk and loud and careless, because they never expected the dead to return. And one by one she separated them from their arrogance, not with reckless fury, but with cold precision, poisoning one's drink with rattlesnake venom, luring another into the desert with a lie about hidden money, letting the sun finish what her bullet started, carving fear into the remaining 3 as rumors spread that a ghost was hunting them, a woman with a bullet hole who couldn't be killed. And when they finally realized the truth, it was too late, because fear makes men sloppy. And Elena made her final stand at the same stretch of road where they left her to die, the desert watching in silence as justice caught up. And when the last desperado begged, swearing he hadn't meant it, swearing it was just business, Elena looked him in the eye and told him that so was this. And as the wind carried away the echoes of gunfire, she didn't smile, she didn't celebrate, she simply stood there breathing, alive. Proof that some mistakes don't fade with time, they grow teeth. And years later people would whisper about 1971, about the woman who came back from the grave. And if you're watching this right now, remember this story. Because power doesn't always come from numbers or guns. Sometimes it comes from refusing to stay buried. And if you want more stories like this, stories of revenge, survival, and unforgettable legends, subscribe to the channel now, because the next story might be even darker, and you won't want to miss it.